Welcome. We have some people who have been around for a few of the sessions, from new faces. I like it. My name is Corinne Zudoni. I'm the editor-in-chief of Contracting Profits Magazine, Facility Cleaning Decisions Magazine, and CleanLink.com, and a couple others. We've got people counting for me. We are the organizers behind NFMT and Clean Buildings. So thank you so much for being here. We are going to quick chat today for a little bit about germ hotspots. Infection prevention, as we all know, is very, very important and very commonplace, especially after the pandemic. So, I mean, it was before then, but it certainly became
Certainly did.
much more prominent in the general culture in the pandemic. So, with me, I have John LaRochelle. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Yeah, my name is John LaRochelle. Welcome. Thank you for attending. Some of you I saw at the earlier presentation where Dr. Gerber and I were talking about pathogens and germs and some of the new science and research about where they're hiding, or maybe places that you weren't aware that there were challenges in your facility.
Yeah, germs are sneaky little buggers. So what did you talk about in your presentation? Where is the most unobvious place that a germ might hide?
Well, there's a lot of different things, but the new science and research is showing one of the most contaminated surfaces in your building are the floors. So the floors historically have been areas of least concern, especially in healthcare facilities, but we know now that what's on the floor will get to the occupants and will get to the high-touch surfaces in a very short period of time and start traveling throughout the building. So if you ever sit in a room on a sunny day, you see the dust particles flowing in the air. Each one of those dust particles can scoop up bacteria and pathogens and redistribute it, and it can start to flow throughout your building. So these are ways that, people get sick, whether it's norovirus, whether it's cold, flu, COVID. It's just a means of transmission.
Yeah, and people don't realize it. Like right in front of me, I see a couple people have a beverage on the floor, a couple bags on the floor. There was a study Dr. Gerba did from the University of Arizona. He did a study in schools, and he tested the floors, specifically school kids' backpacks. And all of a sudden, they have to get an assignment. They pick up their backpack off the floor. They put it on their desk. They pull out their assignment. They put their backpack back down. And now that contaminant is on their desk, which they touch, and then they touch something else, and a pencil. Do they even still have pencil sharpeners? Do they use pencils? But anyway, but they'll touch those doorknobs. They'll spread that bacteria throughout a facility. And schools are just one venue for that. Certainly walking across the floor disturbs the particles on the floor, and then they become airborne. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Gerber from University of Arizona was my co-speaker this morning, and it was really powerful understanding how fast these pathogens are moving. So from the floors, a lot of facilities only use neutral cleaner on the floors. And simply what we're doing is giving the organisms, the germs and the pathogens, a drink of water. So we're feeding them every day versus trying to reduce them. So we do testing throughout all types of facilities, and we find the highest bacteria counts on the floors. And again, a study done out of the VA by Dr. Curtis Dunsky showed that what was on the floor, a harmless pathogen, had traveled to 62% of the occupants of the room and 62% of the surfaces within 2 days. It was amazing how fast these things travel. One of the other aspects that is contributing to this is mops and dry mopping. In this world of trying to cut labor, as a former housekeeper, they were telling us always, move faster, try to clean more. And, sometimes the dry mopping process was skipped or eliminated. And without dry mopping, you're really leaving all the dust and debris. So even if you try to disinfect, all that debris is kind of canceling out the effectiveness of the disinfectant. So it's, looking at, the dry mopping as a key aspect, and also looking at your mops. Are you laundering your mops? Are they coming back clean? Or are you using string mops that you hang in the closet overnight? If you hang string mops in a closet, I guarantee you, I've tested a lot, they will have between 1 and 5 million pathogens growing on them overnight. Even if you soak them in bleach, you leave them overnight, they just start replicating. So mops are a key component, dry mopping, and if you're sending your mops out for laundering, make sure when they come back, they're actually been decontaminated. The studies and our research and the research of Dr. Gerber showed that even after laundering, some of these mops are coming back still contaminated because they're very dense material. Maybe they're not being washed at a high enough temperature. If they're microfiber, they need between 160 and 190 degrees. So again, evaluating whether the products and the process that you're using is actually effective. And the mops are a big piece of that.
That's a great point, but I think anyone here is questioning, how do they know if their mop has been laundered properly and it's actually decontaminated?
Yeah, I mean, what you should do if you are laundering on site, you can simply send it to a lab. You can contact an organization like us that will bag it and actually send it off. A lot of times what we do, we go into hospitals, sports teams, colleges, different facilities, and we'll bag the mop or the wipe and we'll send it out to see what's growing on it. The clean mop, the one that they're going to use before cleaning. And like I said, we've found over 500,000 pathogens sometimes on these mops and wipes before the housekeeper's even using it for the day. So you're starting the day off with a contaminated product.
Yeah, that makes it rough, and it's hard to know. So, but you mentioned, I want to revert back a little bit. You mentioned both dry mopping before wet mopping.
Yep.
And there's always the discussion, and this applies to mostly to surfaces, but the clean, then the disinfect. So does that apply to the floor as well?
Absolutely.
And kind of what does that process look like?
Yeah, it's a great point. So no matter what process or surface that you're trying to disinfect, you have to clean and then disinfect. You look at every EPA-approved disinfectant, the first step is you need to clean the soil, the gross material, and then disinfect. Well, some of the challenges is, you have material and fluids that you can't really tell are there. So you really need to clean the surface and then disinfect it, and that allows the disinfectant to work. For dust mopping or for floors, it's even more important because if you're not dry mopping that floor and getting all that material, I mean, you have hair, you have fibers, you have dust and debris. If you're not getting all that organic material up before sanitizing or disinfecting, that product's going to struggle to be successful. So it's something that you have to do the two-step process. It's a great point.
Yeah, someone way back when I was a little tiny baby editor, someone tried to explain hand sanitizing to me, and they said if you don't wash your hands first, you say your hands are physically soiled with dirt, and if you don't wash that dirt off first, you just sanitize. You've now sanitized the dirt on your hands, but they're still dirty. Does that? I mean, for a visual, does that apply to surfaces and floors?
Absolutely. You have to. Again, the products are not designed to be used in so much organic material, and it just cancels it out. And too much dirt, too much soil, blood or body fluids, whatever it may be, you have to get that up for that disinfectant to be successful. It'll work a little bit, but definitely not as designed.
Yeah, and that includes particles you can't see.
Absolutely, and that is the challenge. Some of these things we're dealing with, you can't see.
Yeah. Going back to the floor, disinfecting floors and the step to do so is an additional step, which is challenging when we're the last two sessions we've talked about labor.
Yep.
So, is there a recommendation for which floors should be disinfected? Are there floors that don't necessarily need to be disinfected?
Right. You always have to do a risk assessment to any type of facility. Certainly the higher risk areas are the more important ones that you should absolutely disinfect. But if you're doing any type of mopping process, whether it's a flat mop, a string mop, having at least a sanitizer level in there is going to benefit anyone, any population that's in there. If it's a school, my daughter and my whole family were school teachers, keeping those kids safe, keeping the teachers safe, because any organism that comes into that school spreads like wildfire. The floors are absolutely one of the highest risk factors because they're just not addressed. And until we truly treat them as a problematic area, you're going to get these reoccurring infections and challenges.
Yeah, we have a question. Sherry, if
Yeah.
you can just turn on that microphone in the back there.
Sorry to interrupt, but here's my question. In a small contained area, like
Close.
put in my face?
Just get closer.
Sorry, I'm eating taco.
How was the
Thought you were
food?
like in a classroom or an exam room, this makes sense, right? You can dry mop, get the debris away, and then disinfect.
Yep.
We're talking massive areas where you're using a floor machine, perhaps,
Yep.
to do the cleaning. What's your recommendations?
Yeah, so
Good
in
question.
your large, so the question is those large hallways. Certainly, as you get into the hallways, there are less risk factors for transmission, but they are large, important areas. So you still need to dry mop your corridors before using your automated floor machines. And because those automated floor machines are using, pressure pads, they're scrubbing, they're putting liquid down and sucking it up. The mechanical action in itself has a lot of benefit to removing those pathogens mechanically. So you're benefiting from those automatic scrubbers and really helping to create a better environment. The one thing about auto scrubbers is to make sure you clean them and empty them, because I have sampled auto scrubbers, and they can become a petri dish of organisms. And some people say, yeah, my floors are kind of smelling. You go to the auto scrubber in the solution tank and even the waste tank, and they're highly contaminated. So cleaning your equipment's really important. Oh.
You can just leave that on, actually.
Hey, I'm sorry. Do you mind telling me, I think I heard you say don't use pH neutral cleaner on the floor?
Don't use pH neutral cleaner on the floor.
Yeah, because it feeds the bacteria and the pathogens. So I was curious what you would recommend, because I know a lot of times the pH neutral is great for making sure that the balance of the floor is right. So I just was curious what your recommendation is.
Sure.
Instead of that.
I mean, all solutions have, high, low, or pH neutral. I mean, one of the largest disinfectants in the world, NADCC, is, in my travels in Europe, UK, Ireland, they use a pH neutral cleaner. It's used in water purification. It's used, it was the first EPA approved or effective of pathogens in biofilm. So the pH is not as critical as the ability for that to knock down the organisms, whether it's sanitizing them or fully disinfecting them. So it is important. I think it's a great question, because you get a pH that's too high or too low, you're stripping floors, you're damaging the surface, and also the people, the employees, the housekeepers, the real heroes of the cleaning effort, they're going to suffer from respiratory and different challenges when you have too high or low pH solutions. So,
Question, does it need to be pH neutral and a disinfectant at the same time?
yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I've seen a lot of very effective disinfectants that are lower on the pH scale and higher on the pH scale and right in the middle. So it's not as important as, surface compatibility with your people that are applying it. And again, reading that master label, if it's a disinfectant or sanitizer, looking at the master label of how long it needs to stay wet, how effective it is, like how long before it kills. If you got norovirus, the stomach virus in the school, does it need to stay wet 10 minutes before it's going to be effective, or 1 minute? Big difference.
I think that's a good point too, John, is knowing what you're trying to tackle.
Right.
How do you know what might be on that surface so that you can adhere to the dwell time, that you can use the proper or the product properly.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, you don't want to use a sledgehammer to kill an ant. You want to use the least aggressive, least pH, something that's going to be not damaging on your surfaces and on your people to kill that organism. So if you're in a school, norovirus is a big problem. My daughter's school, she had 2/3 of her classroom out one week because of norovirus. It rips through there very quickly. So looking to the type of disinfectant you have and whether it's effective against those organisms. Certainly as you get into healthcare facilities, you need to understand things that are sporicides and different other things. But the last part about disinfectants to understand is your disinfectant effective? Is it still working? Most of the disinfectants used in the United States, a lot of them are called quaternary ammoniums. And when a quaternary ammonium disinfectant comes in contact with a mop or a cloth, the disinfectant sticks to the mop and cloth. So there's a study done out of Yale where they put the mops and cloths in the quaternary ammonium disinfectant, pulled them out one by one in 5-minute increments and rang them out to see what would come off that cloth. After 15 minutes, they were cleaning with water. So you need to test it. It's simple test strips, just like your pool testing, to make sure your disinfectant is still working. When it comes out of the dispenser, test it. And then downstream, a half an hour, make sure your housekeepers still have disinfectant in their bucket. And don't let them leave their mops sitting in that solution. Otherwise, it's just going to suck the disinfectant right out of the water. And it'll be nothing left to disinfect with.
Right. And you're just to give some added information, you're talking charging buckets and resulting in quat binding.
Correct. Quat binding.
Quat binding. So, okay. You can look that up.
And quat binding is quaternary ammonium is what you use in your fabric softener. And it's great when you do your laundry because it smells fresh and it's softer. But in the cleaning environment with disinfectants, it sucks that disinfectant out. It sticks to the cloth, and it's not useful for any more disinfecting.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're actually coming up on the I know it goes really fast.
Session.
So,
Yes.
Would you mind just grabbing the microphone? Sorry.
I'd give you mine.
It's just easier to hear.
I was wondering, do you write articles about these findings? Because I was wondering where I could find more information.
I barely got out of high school, so I'm not a great English person, but I do a lot of speaking about this.
Okay.
I have a lot of colleagues that write, but we evaluate facilities throughout the United States, whether it be a lot of hospitals, professional sports teams, just to help them understand, is your disinfectant working? Is your laundry working? So I'm glad to participate in anything, but I probably need someone like her to write for me.
Okay. Is it included in the Contracting Profits magazine?
Yeah, we do talk to John quite a bit for interviews on this topic, and we have worked with John and Dr. Gerba on webcasts on the website. So
I'll check
they
it
are
out.
available.
Yeah, we do sessions all the time. I love educating and doing this because, again, my background was a housekeeper.
Okay.
So I worked my way up and managed Sodexo's North American group for cleaning.
Yeah.
And this is just the passion, so I love doing it.
It's valuable information, especially you're into floor care, because you're doing it, but it's a good way of communicating with the customer and explaining to them how imperative it is to get their carpets clean. Because I've been in some commercial buildings and it's not a priority, and it's it's set up on a quarterly cleaning, but they don't always get to it, and so the floors don't look the best. But just thinking about what you said and how much germs is on the floors.
Yeah,
really
I'll give you one more thing. Dr. Gerber had been involved in an outbreak, and they vacuumed a floor where someone got sick with norovirus.
Ooh.
Then the vacuum wasn't properly cleaned. A week later, they re-vacuumed the floor, whole new outbreak, because all they did was create a incubator for that organism in the vacuum.
Wow.
So vacuuming can aerosolize up
Worse.
and blow things into the environment.
Which one do you recommend? Like the carpet steam cleaning or like the foam cleaning or the dry foam cleaning?
There's some benefits to both, but I mean, typically if you can get a HEPA vacuum filter is
Okay, that's
something
the
with a
most
HEPA
important.
filter for
Got it.
any floor equipment is preferable.
Okay.
Just To clarify too, we keep mentioning Dr. Gerba. Charles Gerba is a scientist at the University of Arizona.
Yep.
He has done many, many, many studies in this industry,
Yep.
through about transmission, about things in the air, toilet plume. Look it up. It's disgusting.
Yep.
But you can look up his research, and he does a lot of speaking as well, and works with us too. So if you want to look up Dr. Gerba, it's Charles Gerba at the University of Arizona.
Yeah, and I'll be on the side. If you have any questions, additional information, you can email me, text me. I'm on LinkedIn, so love to collaborate and learn from you and learn from each other.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.